Hello, it's Caliborn back again. I put this up so it's not so drab behind me. And it was shading this light over here a little bit, but whatever. So we're going to do episode number 6 today. That the skeleton key requested. It's going to be over Nettle, which a lot of people probably know. Some about nettle or whatnot, also known as stinging nettle. Uh, it kind of reminds me of this video that I watched on YouTube where this kid took off his shirt and his pants and he ran and jumped into this area that had a bunch of nettle growing in it, and nettle in its raw form growing, and yeah, it's not a very pleasant plant or herb to deal with. But there's a huge amount of properties that can be used for when it comes to medicinal and things like that. I mean, there's a lot. There's yeah, and we'll go over those here in a second. But yeah, so that just kind of is what nettle reminds me of, because it's also known as stinging nettle, and it causes a rash if you come in contact with its little thorns that it's got along its leaves and its branches, or stem, I guess is not really, but yeah, so anywho, so let me pull this up here real quick, and I've got it all pulled up. And I'm actually going to read from my new book that I got. This is not a magic book, but this is just called the Herb Book, and I did a thing on it. Just a short review on it. It's got some awesome stuff in here. Talks about how to dry herbs, how to make ointments, how to make essences, cold compresses, things like that. And then it's got a section that is all about, you look for your ailment and it tells you what you can use for it. So it's actually a really neat little book. It's got like 513 different herbs in it. And then it's got some recipes and some other stuff in it. Like this is this here, where it shows like the plant part to choose, color of it, material, and additives, and yada yada yada. So it's a good book to have on hand, I would say. Okay, so anyway, we'll read from this first, and then we'll go into Wikipedia, or not Wikipedia, WebMD and Wikipedia. Alright, so common names for it is common nettle, or actually common stinging nettle, common nettle, great stinging nettle, and stinging nettle. Basically, it's, yeah. I'll put a picture of it in right here. And alright, so the medicinal part is actually the plant. It's the leaves. It's mostly the leaves is what I see being used. Description of it is, stinging nettle is a perennial plant found all over the world. In the U.S., it grows in waste places and gardens and along roadsides, fences, and walls. In the states northward from Colorado, Missouri, and South Carolina, the square, bristly stem grows from 2 to 7 feet high and bears opposite, cordate, deeply serrated, pointed leaves with which, and that's another thing. the way that it's telling about these leaves, there's a section in here that tells you about the leaves, um, what the difference is, and what it's called, and which is good because it just named off a bunch of stuff that I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. Um, so yeah. Anyway, so leaves which are downy underneath, they're soft. The small greenish flowers grow in auxiliary clusters from July to September. Properties and uses. So it can be used as an astringent, a diuretic, uh, hemostatic, a tonic. The fresh juice from an infusion of the nettle plant has been used to stimulate the digestive system and to promote milk flow in nursing mothers. So this doesn't seem to be, from what I'm reading so far, doesn't seem to be a plant that mothers should not use, or pregnant, whatever. As an astringent, it is also used for blood in the urine, hemorrhoids, and excessive menstrual flow. Nettle is a Nettle is a helpful remedy for ailments of the urinary tract and is said to reduce susceptibility to your rheumatic problems and colds. And I'll get into that if it doesn't mention that in here in just a second, because there's some properties about it that, you know. Let's see. A decoction of the plant is good for diarrhea. A decoction of the root is recommended for the external use of the scalp or for loss of hair. The fresh leaves have sometimes been used as a rubefacient, but severe irritation and blistering can result. That's what I was saying. Whenever you actually fresh, if you were to run through a field of nettles, you're going to end up with rash and blisters, and I mean it's a bad deal when it's yeah. Let's see. Nettle can also be eaten as a vegetable, but old plants must be thoroughly cooked to be safe. Young plants in the spring can be used for salad or vegetable, or as a vegetable. Give me just a second. Okay. Sorry, I'm helping Shauna with a test she's taking. Okay, so young plants can be used in salad or as a vegetable. Caution, do not eat old plants uncooked. They can produce kidney damage and symptoms of poisoning. The bristly hairs of the nettle plant can act like a hypodermic, injecting an irritant substance under the skin when touched, so handle with care. Alright, so preparation and dosage. Infusion, steep 2 to 3 tablespoons leaves or plant in 1 cup of water for 10 minutes. If you want the juice, mix an equal amount of water and take 1 tablespoon. Mix with an equal amount of, if you juice it, mix with an equal amount of water and take 1 teaspoon at a time. Scalp wash, boil 3 to 4 ounces of chopped leaves into 2 cups of water and 2 cups of vinegar for a short time. Now there's also another variety of it which is called the small or dwarf nettle, and it's just basically a smaller species of it. It doesn't get as tall. Short spikes. Medicinally, it's equivalent to the other one. Now the one that you want to look for is Urtica Urtica space Dioica. There's another variety. There's another variety out there that you don't want to use, and there's actually some information on that in here. So let's look at the Magic and Medicine of Plants book, and we'll look at this one real quick and see what it says, if it says anything different. Although it is best known today for the burning rash it produces upon contact with the skin, like I said before. Stinging nettle deserves greater appreciation. Once widely consumed as a spring tonic, the plant's tender young stalks, boiling removes the irritating materials. Are rich in protein, iron, and vitamin A and C, and make it a healthful tea, soup, or green. Stinging nettle was formerly cultivated in Scotland for the fibers in the stalks, which served to make durable linen-like cloth. This is used to go back to the Bronze Age, or this use goes back to the Bronze Age. Let's see. The very name of the nettle plant is said to derive from words meaning textile plant. Herbalists also made good use of the nettle, which is considered a cure for everything from baldness to tuberculosis. But the nettle seems to have been most popular as a counter irritant, an agent that, by irritating the skin of the inflamed area, causes increased blood flow to the area and thereby reduces the inflammation. Victims of gout and rheumatism allowed themselves to be scourged with nettles in the dubious belief that this would alleviate their suffering. This kind of goes into the same uses for bees. I mean, people use bees nowadays as an actual medical practice. I mean, they go in and they get stung in certain spots, like in pressure points and things like that. Kind of like, what's it called? It'll come to me. Acupuncture. Kind of like that, but they're using the actual bees. If I went into that, it would probably kill me because I am allergic to bees and wasps and anything that stings, really. But they go in and they put them in, like if you've got backaches or headaches or whatever, they literally sting you with these bees. They get them with these tweezers and they sting you with these bees. Now, with the dwindling population of bees, I would highly suggest that people not do that anymore, but yeah, that's just me, and who's going to listen to me? So, let's see. So I've already told you about the habitats and where it ranges, identification of it. I've told you a little bit about. Nettle has opposite heart. Now here's a better description. Opposite heart-shaped leaves, heart-shaped, coarsely toothed leaves covered with stiff, stinging bristles. The bristles also cover the stems. Tiny light green flowers, June to September, are borne in long, slender spikes at the axils of the leaves. Uses: you can make it into teas. From the seeds is used in modern herbal medicine as a hair tonic, like we've talked about. Pharmacologists doubt that the plant is effective in any of these uses. Nettle is a commercial source of chlorophyll and yields a green dye. The young shoots are edible after boiling. And like I said, I'll put a picture in, or put some pictures in, so you can see what it looks like. So if you go hunting for it, you just run through the forest until you find something that burns you. Pretty much. Okay, so let's see what it says on WebMD. I'm not going to go through all the same stuff. The stinging nettle is a plant. People use the root and above ground parts as medicine, so both root and stem, leaves, and flowers are used. Stinging nettle is used for many conditions, but so far there is not enough scientific evidence to determine whether or not it is effective for any of them. Once again, they're testing all the synthetic shit before they test the... Yeah, I'm not going to go into that. Let's see. It's used for urination problems related to an enlarged prostate or BPH. These problems include nighttime urination, frequent urination, painful urination, inability to urinate, and irritable bladder. Let's see. Stinging nettle is also used for joint ailments as a diuretic and as an astringent. The above ground part is used along with large amounts of fluids in so-called irrigation therapy for urinary tract infections, urinary tract inflammation, and kidney stones. The above ground parts are also used for allergies, hay fever. Some of the above ground parts of the stinging nettles for internal bleeding, including uterine bleeding, nosebleeds, and bowel bleedings. Let's see, the above ground parts are also used for anemia, poor circulation, and enlarged spleen, diabetes, and other endocrine disorders, stomach acid, diarrhea, and dysentery, asthma, lung congestion, rash, and eczema, cancer, preventing the signs of aging, blood purification, wound healing, and other general tonics. So it's like I said, there's a lot of uses for nettle. Um, and like I said, it's very high in vitamin C. When my grandmother was going through chemo and all that, I used to make her teas using nettle because it's high in vitamin C, helps to helps to boost the immune system, um, and assist with all that stuff. It helps keep you from getting sick, or if you are sick, it's good for colds, things like that, in the tea form. I mean, obviously, you want to put it with other things because it is kind of on the bitter side, such as peppermint, and you can use lavender, chamomile, anything that's going to kind of break up the bitterness of the plant. All right, so let's see. Stinging nettle above ground parts are applied to the skin for muscle aches and pains, oily scalp, oily hair, and hair loss, or alopecia. In foods, young stinging nettle leaves are eaten as cooked vegetables. In manufacturing, stinging nettle extract is used as an ingredient in hair and skin products. Stinging nettle leaf has a long history of use. It was used primarily as a diuretic and laxative in ancient Greek times. It says don't confuse stinging nettle with white dead nettle. Those I guess they look similar, and I might leave a picture if I can find some white dead nettle here. If not, then yeah. And you're gonna move around us for a second because I gotta move my legs. I've been sitting in the same position for too long. Okay. And although my sinuses are cleared up a little bit, my nose is still itching like a mofo. Okay, so uses. Now, in WebMD, the possibly effective for section is osteoarthritis. It says that oh God, no, I don't want to take your survey. Stop asking. Sorry. There's evidence that taking stinging nettle by mouth or applying it to the skin might reduce pain in people with osteoarthritis. Research suggests that using stinging nettle might reduce the need for pain medications. So that part in there is possibly effective. I guess they researched that one. Sorry if I'm a little irritated. Anyway, insufficient evidence for hay fever, BPH, bleeding, diabetes, gingivitis. I don't think that I'd want to put it in my mouth. Anyway, yeah. Water retention, which it's a diuretic, so water retention is obviously going to be one of the things that they use it for to Yeah, for anemia because it helps to increase the your red blood cells as well. I'm not reading that. I know about it a little bit because I researched it before giving it to my grandmother. So, because she was having to go have blood transfusions and things like that. Asthma, poor circulation, diarrhea, cancer, wound healing, and other conditions. More evidence is needed to rate stinging nettle for these uses. Okay, so side effects. Let's see if there's any side effects in here. Obviously, fresh nettle side effect is going to be itchy, burny, blistery skin. Um, Stinging nettle is possibly safe when taken by mouth for up to 2 years or when applied to the skin appropriately. However, it might cause stomach complaints. Complaints. Yeah, your stomach's going to send you a complaint. Why don't they just say irritate your stomach? And sweating. Touching the stinging nettle plant can cause skin irritation, obviously. Now, special precautions and warnings. This one actually says pregnancy and breastfeeding. Stinging nettle is likely unsafe to take during pregnancy. It might stimulate urination or ureter contractions and cause a miscarriage. It is also best to avoid stinging nettle if you're breastfeeding. Yet in this other book, it states that consuming nettle helps to produce helps the mother to produce milk. So I don't know. Take the information and use it as you please. Diabetes. There is some evidence stinging nettle above ground parts can decrease blood sugar levels. It might increase the chance of low blood sugar, though, in people being treated for diabetes. So if you're taking insulin or you're on a pill or any of those things, be cautious of it and monitor your blood sugar frequently because if you're using it, it could drop it lower than it should be. And this is one of those times where I have to tell you if you're going to use it, I would consult your doctor, let them know I'm going to start taking this regimen. I need to know how we need to work this so that I can change my insulin or my medication as needed. So chances are the doctors will be like, no, keep taking the synthetic stuff and yada yada yada. But y'all. It says monitor your blood sugar carefully if you have diabetes and use stinging nettle. Um, low blood low blood pressure. Stinging nettle above ground parts might lower blood pressure. In theory, stinging nettle might increase the risk of blood pressure dropping too low in people prone to low blood pressure. So again, if you are taking medication to lower your blood pressure, chances are you want to consult your physician, let them know that you're going to start this regimen. What do I need to be watching for? Obviously, if you pass out, your blood pressure is probably too low. Just a little tidbit. Anyway, so always discuss stinging nettle with your healthcare provider before starting it. Kidney problems. The above ground parts of stinging nettle seem to increase urine flow. If you have kidney problems, discuss stinging nettle with your healthcare provider before starting it. To me, I think if you were to get the kidneys flowing better or urine flow better, that would help the kidneys. Just my opinion. It also down here at the bottom it says related to stinging nettle, supplements for ADHD, vitamin and supplements for UC, healthy aging and nutrition, medications for skin allergies, vitamins for before you get pregnant, and top sources of omega-3s or omega-3s. There's no comma there, so I don't know if it's O3S or what. Okay, so that is side effects section. Interactions. This is a long section. Well, I say long. It is. Hang on just a second. Okay, so. Interactions. Moderate interactions. Be cautious with this combination. So, lithium interacts with stinging nettle. Medications for diabetes, like we talked about, it lowers your blood sugar, so be careful of those. Medications for high blood pressure, be careful of those because it lowers, oh gosh, diabetes, it lowers your blood sugar. Blood pressure, it lowers your blood pressure. Um, so be careful. Sedative medications interacts with stinging nettles. So looks like large amounts of stinging nettle above ground parts can cause sleepiness and drowsiness. Medications that cause sleepiness are called sedatives. Taking stinging nettle along with sedative medication might cause too much sleepiness. There's a such thing as too much sleepiness. I didn't know about that. It's so funny, my goatee's blondish. And then warfarin interacts with stinging nettle, so be careful of those. I doubt it'll give us any dosing. Yeah, it doesn't give us any dosage information. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, so let's see. I think that's all for that. Alright, so Wikipedia. Let's go over here and look at this. And other names for nettle is devil's claw, devil's plaything, nettle, burn hazel, and burn weed. Let's see, so that's just that. History and folklore. Stinging nettle is mentioned in 9 Herbs Charm. It has been used in Europe for centuries as food in early spring when sources of food were scarce, as a nutritive spring tonic, and to build the strength and milk production of pregnant and lactating women and livestock as a medication for various conditions. Hypocrites recorded 61 medicinal uses of the plant in the 4th and 5th centuries. Let me move this cord. That might help me have to back and forth. Let's see. Nettles was once widely used for its stem fibers, which were retted and spun into flax. In Denmark, burial shrouds made of the resulting cloth have been found dating back to 5,000 years or more. So this is a plant that's been used a lot. Native Americans used the fiber to make fishing nets for cordage. Nettle leaves produce a green dye which is used in wartime Europe to make camouflage and is used to this day in Germany to keep canned vegetables looking a healthy green. So in Germany they dye their vegetables with a vegetable. So propagation, plant nettles 6 to 12 inches apart in moist, rich soil and get some shade. They will grow like a weed, which they are a weed, and spread out like crazy. They do grow well in a pot. If grown in the garden, they should be surrounded by underground barrier to prevent them taking over. Stinging nettles are best grown in their own patch. Cut nettles back after they flower, but before they seed, so they don't spread out of control. So if you plant them in your garden, you definitely want to Sorry. You definitely want to cut them back before they go to seed, because once they go to seed, you are just screwed. Pretty much. Because, like I said, they're a weed and they will spread like wildfire. Alright, so magical attributes. There's multiple attributes, really, not just what's in here. When I get my magic book, I will uh, go over some more with you all. Of some of the stuff that we've talked about. Let's see. Nettle is male in action and associated with the sign of Scorpio. Some say Aries. And the planet Mars, an element of fire. Obviously, fire because it causes burns and whelps and rashes and whatnot. Nettle can be burned to drive out negativity or unwanted spirits. Um, it can be used in combination. I actually have a little bit of nettle left in there. Whenever I'm doing cleansing, home cleansings, and there goes Shauna again. She's just gonna have to wait. And now she's gonna hate me whenever she reads this or watches this video. She's gonna be like, "Really? I have to wait?" Um, oh, it wasn't Shauna. Okay, it was Shauna. It's a picture of some guys wearing nothing but sneakers. Okay. So nettle can be burned. Like I said, I use it in conjunction with um, dragon's blood and sage, and um, I actually ground up some for my black salt. Uh, so it can be used in protection bags, uh, or ground into powder and used in spells to break curses. That's another thing people come to me for is, yeah, curses. Let's see, household use. Like I said, there's many things that it's used for, not only for medicinal but for magical purposes as well. You can use fresh leaves as a like if you're wanting somebody to go away or to stop bothering you or something like that, because remember, it does have that burning, irritated effect. So using it in a sense of trying to rid somebody that's irritating you by irritating them, hence the correlation of the irritant. But I mean, that's neither here nor there, but it's something that can be used for that. So there's a whole bunch of different uses. Um, Household use: the long, soft fibers from stinging nettle can be spun into thread or yarn and woven into fabric. The stalks can be shredded and made into paper, which that might be a neat little trick to do. It might be fun. Cut and dry nettles to add to winter fodder for horses, cattle, goats, pigs, and sheep. Nettle leaves can make a lovely green dye. And add and an iron mordant to the dye. Anyway, it's telling you to add something. I don't understand. It's not. This is kind of like Wikipedia where people write it out. Anyway, when you add something to some iron something to the dye, it turns black. Copper produces a lovely gray green, like for camouflage. The roots can be boiled with alum for a nice yellow dye. So, um, those are possible things if you're wanting to use them for your grimoire, things like that, to stain your pages if you wanted to. to make them more earthy and whatnot. Say, for instance, your herbal pages, if you want them to be a more earthy tone, you can use this to and dilute it in some water and dip your papers into it, and then you've got some green tone papers. So versus like just using tea to really versus just using tea to why how in the world look like I got a comb over versus using tea for coloring your pages. Healing attributes, we've already gone through a lot of healing attributes. Teas that you can make with it. The steeping process will destroy the stem without, and what you have left is delicious and nutritious green broth. Chooses a great internal cleanser, useful for, and if you're wanting to like do like a body cleansing, say for instance, you because you can use it for negative energies and things like that. Say, for instance, you have something that this is going back into the magical attributes, though. You have you feel as though somebody is trying to mess with you or something is not quite right. Not only can you cleanse your outside with the smoke and sage from a mixture of the herbs, but you can also steep this, make it into a soup or a tea, and take it internally and use it as an internal cleansing for your body itself, but also for magical uses. Let's see. Freeze-dried nettle tablets are useful for hay fever. Freeze drying retains the sting chemicals, which are helpful with allergic conditions. Nettle tea, steamed nettles, and other preparations containing nettle may be given to pregnant and lactating women and animals to keep them strong and healthy and increase milk production. So, like I said, this is a contradiction as to what WebMD says, where it says that. But this sounds like it's more of after the woman has given birth that it will be a better use. A traditional remedy for rheumatism calls for smacking the affected area with. Beat yourself up with some nettle. Anyway, smacking an affected area with fresh nettle, sting, and all to relieve pain and inflammation. Yes, that's just what I want. It's kind of like if you have pain one place, bite your finger and the pain will stop because your pain is more intensified in a specific location and takes your mind off of the other place. I don't see that as being the best of options for uses. Culinary uses, you can make it into teas or soup, stock. And then, like I said before, you can steam the nettles when they're young, or even the older ones, you can boil them. And using, let's see, as a side dish like greens, try topping with vinegar, sesame seeds, and sesame oil or almond slivers. Add them to any recipe calling for spinach or greens. Nettles are high in protein, vitamin C, and vitamin A, and iron. So the iron is what causes you to increase your blood cell count. So red blood cells are created by your iron levels. So this is one of the things that, in turn, if you're going through cancer or whatnot, you can use it for the vitamin C to boost your immune system, but also for the iron, which will help increase your red blood cell count. Because most of the time when you go through chemo and radiation, it destroys a lot of your cells, and you have to go in and you have to do blood transfusions. Like my grandmother, she had to do, Lord, 3 blood transfusions, maybe 4, and 2 bags each time she went. So But she wasn't taking the stuff that I was giving her like she was supposed to. Anyway, so those are the facts that I have available to me. If you have any questions about it, or if you want to see other videos on other herbs, like I said, this is requested by the Skeleton Key, and she uses Nettle. So, but if you want to add anything to this, by all means, comment down below. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, like the video as well. Um, and we will do another video here shortly. I don't know how long this one is. It says 15 minutes, but I've been pausing it because Shauna has been messaging me. So I will get this uploaded, and until next time, many blessings to all of you, and we will continue with our little episodes. But like I said, if you want to see something specific, leave it down below, because if you request it, I'm going to move it to the top of the list. If not, I'm just going to go through my normal list that I've already prepared. And yeah, so anyway, see you next time. Bye, guys.